It is here. It is time. So good to see all your faces. Guys, this is so exciting today. We've got some people jumping in from the school group. We've got some people here from Forest. We've got some people here from Aldo's joining from Spain, everybody. Hopefully this time can just be you guys digesting and ingesting what I'm going to go through. And I am going to send some follow-up materials to everybody that came to this. So there's going to be some things, if you really want to go through this with intention, that you're going to need to download. We're not going to make this a huge, there's going to be some activation that you guys are going to be doing. So at most, on your computer or on your phone, just be able to type. And if you have paper and pencil nearby, grab it. You may want to do this like analog. So we're going to be doing a little bit of that. What I'm going to be taking you guys through today is, let's see, I started doing this. I learned about this goal setting thing 2013. I started doing this. I had no idea what goal setting even was. I thought it was like New Year's resolution. No, there's a science to this. So we're going to go through some of the science behind this today. It's not an art. It's literally a science. And the good news about that is anybody can learn how to do this. And so I've been refining this for myself since 2013 because I just realized as a creative person, I need to make my own iteration of this. Like I need to make my own version. Goal setting it can be really big. And honestly, it's really overwhelming to me. And it always has been. And the first year I set all these goals and I was like, I didn't even come close. I realized I just set too many, and it's this whole idea of goal setting can just become really big, really fast. And so I realized for creative people, our brains are all over the place sometimes, and we need like a simplified version. So you guys are getting this is like the Brandon simplified version. This is what my wife and I sit down and go through and do every year. And honestly, this year, every year we simplify it down a little bit more, probably because we keep adding kids to our family. You guys can get as serious about this as you want. You can set as many goals as you want. Anyways, I'm going to talk through all of this. So I think we have everybody that's going to be joining. If some people hop in late, that's fine. I'm really thankful that you guys are here. I really hope that by the end of this, you guys, at a very minimum, you just have a freaking clarity to the main line for your year. That's probably the best thing you can give yourself, that you're not living on anybody else's terms. If you're a freelancer, you're not living on your client's terms. If you're a W-2 person, you're not living on your boss's terms. Even if I'm your boss and you're on this call, like that you have clarity and you are going after things yourself. I'll also say this. This will be my one plug for the book, Save the Creatives, that I think most of you have a copy or you have access to a copy or you've already ordered a copy. The opening part of that book where you define your own definition of abundance, it's probably the most radical thing you could do for yourself going into 2026 because nobody's going to define it for you. And if you let social media, what'll happen is you'll have a definition of abundance that just looks like 10 or 100 other people that you follow on social media. So if there's one thing that you could get off this call right now and go and do that, and that one thing alone will have the most impact on your career as a creative person. So if you haven't done that yet, do that. If you didn't, it's okay, because this is all going to connect what we're doing today. So I will say that this will still be impactful, but you've got to get clear. You've got to write down how you define abundance for yourself. And the way that I define it in the book, I have my own definition, and I tell people, please borrow it if this definition works. It's, I have more than enough. That's the key, right? Because we're talking about abundance here. I have more than enough time, health, and financial means to do the things that my wife and I feel like we're called to do. So the key for you is writing down what your definition is. Not everybody, it's going to be the same, right? It's going to be different. But the key is abundance. There's more than enough. And so I can't stress that enough. That is the point of this whole thing, is abundance. It's, if you want to just have some success, there's lots of things out there to teach you how to have some success as a creative person. But this is all geared towards you getting to the point where you feel like there's an overflow. Like, I have so much, I don't even know what to do. And so even this right now, this is, you guys are stepping into me coming to a place where like, who has enough time to put this together at the end of the year? I feel like I'm at a place where I have an abundance of time and resources that even with Forrest going, we can go, okay, Brandon's going to put together this resource for people, literally just because I have an overflow. I want that to spill out into y'all's life. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go through some slides. Grab your snack, grab your water, okay? It's going to be fun. If there's questions, I hope we have some time for questions at the end. For those of you that are in the school community, you can ask me questions. For those of you that are part of the Forest team, you guys have access to Slack. I would love over the break to field some questions that you guys have around this stuff. So let me get my deck opened up here. The slide deck. Share my screen. Okay. Presenter view. All right. We're gonna really get clear on how to remove this ceiling today, I think, for some people. This is even helpful for me. I think I've said this before to some of you, but there's a lot of stuff on the internet about how to do things or teaching. Like, I wouldn't be inviting you guys to come to this if this didn't actually work for me. So maybe it won't work for you, but I just know if it works for me and I'm like an uneducated person with no college degree, there's got to be a chance it's going to work for somebody else. So here's what we're going to go through today, okay? We're going to go through a couple things. First things, why creatives like us don't experience abundance. Now, this is going to be one of the reasons, and there's many why we don't actually step into it. We're not going to get into all of them. Get the book. If you haven't gotten the book yet, I'm going to keep plugging that because I actually believe it'll help. But we're going to talk about one of the main reasons why we don't experience this whole thing of having more than enough of all of the stuff that I talked about, or whatever it is in your life that you feel like you need more than enough of to actually feel like you're experiencing it. So that's the first thing we're going to go through. The second thing is we're going to talk about how to set goals that will make the most impact in your life and career. So you can set a lot of goals, okay? You can set goals for a lot of things. We're going to talk about all of the things that you should be setting goals for. But the main point of this whole talk today, or this whole little thing that we're going through, is to show you guys how to set the ones that are going to make the most impact. Because some will make a little bit of impact. We want to go after the big ones that are really going to feel like when you guys get to this time, so when you get to December 22nd of 2026, you're literally just looking around going, holy crap, look at what happened. This is awesome. This is radically different over here. This looks different over here. This relationship looks transformed and different over here. That's the point, is to go after the big stuff, to take the big swings and to figure out what those goals need to be. So we're going to do that. How to actually pick the one domino goal. That's what I just talked about, but how to actually pick the one thing that unlocks the actual abundance. So there's one goal that if you set it today or going into 2026, it'll knock everything else down. That's what we're going to figure out how to do. So how do you pick that? And some of you are probably thinking it's the money thing. It might not be. Actually, for a lot of creative people, they think if I just make more money, everything will fall into place. That's not the case. And we're going to look at that. I'm going to share a story about that as well. And then the fourth thing, how to put a system in place to guarantee you hit your most important goals. Now, what I'm not doing is I am not guaranteeing that if you come to this call, you will hit your most important goals. I am guaranteeing that if you do what is here and you put this system in place, you're going to drastically increase your chances. And really, if you put this system in place and you do what's here, you're going to hit your goals. So it all has to work together, though. So these are the four things that we're going to cover today that I want you guys to take into the new year. Now, if you see something and you're like, I got to have that, I want you to screenshot. So to follow along in this, you're going to be filling some of this out, and I am going to send this after the fact, but please screenshot or grab whatever's here. I just ask that you don't just share it and post it out there online to just whoever, because a lot of people got invited to this and they didn't come. So I'm not saying I don't want them to have it. I'm just saying feel free to have it for yourself. This is yours. Take this, borrow it, modify this process. You're getting my modified process that I've literally learned from goal setting experts. Literally a guy that wrote a book about goal setting taught me this. So I have, again, whittled it down. So I'm giving you guys permission to take my process and whittle it down, retrofit it onto yourself, because there's people on this call like me that have kids. There's people on this call that don't have kids. Goal setting for people with kids versus goal setting for people that don't can be very different. So take this process and modify it. I'm giving you guys total permission to do that. All right, here we go. So the first section is where we're going to set the stage for why this happens so much. Why do we spend so much time crying in our bedroom? Some of us, right? We've all been there, okay? Myself included. Nobody likes to cry in their bedroom. It sucks. And as creative people, we are emotional. We are emotional beings. We probably cry in our bedroom. I guarantee we cry in our bedroom probably more than the average banker or like accountant. If you looked at our lives, it's not them crying in their bedroom a lot. It's probably us on this call right here. But again, if I didn't believe that it were possible to get to a point where that doesn't happen, we wouldn't be doing this right now. So I do think it is. So here's the first point. Nobody succeeds abundantly on accident. I had to learn this the hard way as a young creative person. It's not really hard to succeed, but to succeed abundantly, look at anybody that you know who's crushing it. And if I want you to think of a person in your life, think of somebody that by your standards of abundance and success, they are just absolutely obliterating it, doing an amazing job. This could be someone you know personally. This could be somebody you work with. This could be somebody you follow on social media. Now, what will happen is if you were able to peek behind the curtain of their life, you're going to find a lot of things, first of all, but you're going to find a person who planned it. You're going to find a person who was not aiming their life at this outcome by chance. And so most creatives, this is what I found because I found this in myself, aren't struggling because we're not talented or because we're not good at what we do. Most creatives that I meet, and I guarantee this is the truth for all of you on this call, you guys are really skilled, you're capable, and a lot of you are in really high demand. But most of us still feel like we have these barriers, or we're still financially unstable, or we're directionless, or like we've hit a ceiling. And it's not because of we're not talented, it's because of this one thing right now. It's because that we're drifting. I call this getting into drift mode in our career. It's like you're just kind of, whatever happens this year, we'll see. And yeah, I don't know. And you just live reactionary, and you're like this slow motion ping pong ball just bouncing through. And if you look back over the last X amount of years of your career, this opportunity opened up and you just, yeah, I think I'll try that. And this is one because we're very emotional and we respond emotionally to different things. And if something we don't like, we just move away from it. And if something's hard, we just push that away and we go over this way. And it's very easy for people like us to get into this point where we're drifting. I know some people right now, you're like, he's describing my life. Oh my gosh, holy crap. Yeah, I'm prone to this as well. I'm not saying like I'm above this. I'm just saying I've noticed this and I've seen this pattern. And this is the thing that after talking with hundreds of creative people, we get into drift mode, and drift mode can be the most dangerous. So drifting is really nice for Sunday afternoons. It's really nice for helping spark inspiration if we're working on a project and we just need space to go out into a field like this and walk around and maybe get lice and a couple ticks. But you know what? That's okay. We need the drifting sometimes. But when you drift in your life in terms of what you want, this is actually where the overwhelm starts to creep in. This is where we get to a place where we start questioning if we're even here for a reason on the planet. And if you zoom out, if you're really struggling, I can probably find, if I were talking with you one-on-one, a place or a person that's drifting in some way really big in your life. So today the drifting ends. Today the drifting stops. And now the other side of that is nobody's coming to undrift you, is you have to be the one that undrifts you. So I'm going to give you some tools today, but I want you to make a decision that I'm going to undrift. I'm going to stop walking through a field, gathering the ticks of creativity that just bite all of us. And I'm going to look at the path I want. And if I don't see the path, I'm going to carve the path. And I have permission to carve the path. And for those of you that have been around me, I talk a lot about this idea of giving yourself permission. So I can't give you that permission, even if I'm your boss and you're on this call. Like, you have to give yourself permission to stop drifting and to get really serious, make a plan. We're going to do that today. So here's the difference between drifting and clarity. How do you know? Drifting looks like this on the left and clarity looks like this on the right. Now, these aren't the only ways that it shows up, but these are like a really good place to start. Are you living reactionary, or are you choosing intentionally all of the big things and the things that you want to go after? Do you have too many or too little direction? So the reason why I put too many or too little directions, sometimes if we have too many options and we're just like, oh, I can do this, I can do this, that means we're drifting. Or sometimes that shows up in the constraints that are around you. Sometimes you're in a job where you can't do these other things that you want to do. And maybe you're in that job because you've just been drifting and you just said yes to the first available thing. So sometimes it can be both. Sometimes it can be too many or too little. Or are there fewer but better opportunities showing up in your life because you've known what you're saying no to and you're focused? Or do you feel like your income has a ceiling on it? Are you in a place where there's a clear view to where you could be making more money? Like you have a clear path. And that's different because we have W-2 people on this call and we have freelancers on this call. And this process is not just for people that have their own business or are freelancing. This whole thing it applies to any kind of creative on the planet. And then finally here, are you waiting for clarity to arrive? This is probably the biggest one. Or are you actually designing the future? And I think this is the most important one because I talk a little bit about this in the book, but as creative people, think about this for a second. We're the most creative people inside of the organizations that we work for. Now, whether you're like an in-house or a freelancer, it's the same. You're the person imagining the thing that's not there for the client or for the employer, and then your job is to go and make that happen and bring that to life. And I think we get so into the mode of doing this for money that we forget how powerful that is, that we were born that way, that we were made that way. Yeah, I think it's so ironic and so funny that we're so good at doing this for other people, but then when it comes to designing our own life and our own future and getting a plan, for some reason there's like a block, and we're like, I don't know. Isn't that weird? I think about this all the time, and something that Nate says, my business partner, and he and I have talked about this a lot, but he said to me one time, he said, man, if you can design a website, you can design a business. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. If you can design a landing page, you can design a strategy. You can design a blank, you can design a blank. And I think the most important thing in this whole slide is when you're in a place of clarity, you're in a place where you feel like you can be designing the future for yourself. And it's not like this selfish thing. It's not like this greedy thing. You're just going for it because you feel the sense of permission and you're applying that creativity that you have when you apply it to work, you're applying it to your own life. So what an amazing way to think about goal setting. What if we just thought about it this way? I'm going to apply that creativity that Luke on this call, who's an amazing funnel builder, like Luke, what if you start applying that creativity to building funnels to like your own life? And I know you are in ways, but like think about with your marriage and with your daughter and now with the other child you guys are bringing into the world. Think about the next 5 years. What if you took that creativity and you just started mapping it out for all these other areas, for all of us on this call? This is the really fun part. And that's how you know when you're in clarity and you're not drifting, you're designing the future.
So good.
Okay. I want you to complete the sentence honestly. Now, this is where type this out or write this out. This is where I want you guys to actually do this. If nothing changes, my life at the end of 2026 will look like. Now, maybe this is negative. It feels a little bit negative for you to do. That's okay. I just want you to do it. If your life will look the exact same as it does right now, then you probably don't have any goals or you probably don't have the clarity you want. And if you can easily fill in this blank and the after looks different than it does now, that's a sign you're aiming for clarity and you're not just drifting. So even your ability to answer this easily or not shows maybe where you're drifting a little bit or not. So this is really important. So write this down. You don't have to share this with anybody. I may ask at the end if we have time, if anybody wants to share, but you guys do not have to share. This is for you. All right, now I want to get into a little bit of the data behind this because I used to think this was fluff. So individuals who establish written goals and create a plan to hit them are 10 times more likely to achieve success than those who do not. So think about this. Before you got on this call today, if you didn't have a plan or your goals written down, you're in one state. And then by the end of this call, if you have a plan and you have something written down, you're 10 times more likely to achieve that thing as you were before you got on this call with a bunch of people that you might not even know. Isn't that wild? This is like real data. This is from one study. And the crazy thing about this is if anyone's read any books on goal setting, and there's books like Atomic Habits that I highly suggest reading. If something sparks in you today, you should definitely get that book. But there's so much data around this. Like so many people have written about this because there's a science and a methodology, and it almost borderlines this idea of manifesting that I'm not a big proponent of and a big fan of, but I do think there's something to be said. When you focus on something, what your brain does is it goes into this mode where when you see that thing and you're focused, you are subconsciously and consciously eliminating and avoid things that pull you away from focusing on that thing. And we've all experienced this in one way or another in our life. Everybody here has. We just haven't thought about it before. So with goal setting, it's no different. Here's another one. A study by Dr. Gail Matthews at Dominican University found that participants who wrote down their goals, created action commitments, and provided weekly progress reports to a friend achieved a 76% success rate In contrast, those with unwritten goals had a success rate of only 43%. Again, one study. There's multiple studies. So that's crazy. If you asked any investor, or you asked anybody that invests any kind of anything in anything, and you told them, hey, if we do this and this, we have a 76% of success rate of return, they would say, take my money. So why don't we do this? So what we're going to do today is we're literally going to position you guys to go from being in that 43% to maybe sitting right in that 76% chance and having this massive opportunity to hit these goals. So I just love this because, again, I don't have a degree in college. I got a 2.3 in high school. You're telling me that I don't have to have any of that stuff to increase my chances of hitting my goals to 76%? Sign me up. Okay, I thought this would be fun to share. This was 2024. So every year, my wife and I, at the beginning of the year, we sit down and we go through these 9 or 10 areas of the life domains that we'll talk about in a little bit. And we literally write down what each of us wants. So my handwriting is on the top one over here on the right, and hers is on the bottom. And then we form our goals out of these things. So these are not the actual written out goals, but these are the direction that we want to aim that will inform our goals. And I shared this one with you guys because recreational goals are really hard for me to set. Things like, if you were to say, Brendan, you should go play more pickleball. I don't have time. I have to work. We're building forests. I got to get this book, Save the Creatives launch. I need to spend more time recreationally in my life, and it's really hard with 4 kids. So we set a lot of goals in 2024 around recreational stuff. And the thing I'm most proud of here is we hit every one of these goals. I have on here like trips. We want to go to Hawaii. We want to go to Florida twice, and we want to go on a baby moon because we had our 4th kid on the way. We hit every one of those and then some. I had hobbies, painting, basketball, time with my brothers. I set goals around all of those, crushed it. There's even artwork stuff in there. So anyways, I share this with you guys because the picture that you see over on the left, this hangs in our kitchen where my wife and I are. And that's the room we spend the most time in. It's where we're going to see it the most. So this is powerful because I am like an example of this. Like when you just do this and you put it somewhere, you're not going to hit every one of them, but you're going to come close. And if you set the right ones, you're going to drastically increase your chances. Like we went to Hawaii with 3 kids. That was wild. It took moving a ton out of the way. We would have never done that had we not set a goal to do it, especially while we're like leading a business and doing all these other things. So I show this as an example of how powerful it is when we just take the time to do this and to plan it and to write it out. So I'll say this too before I move on. If you have a spouse, you have to do this with them. It will not even be it won't even come close to being as powerful as it can be if you do this by yourself. Now, there are some career goals and business goals, or creative goals that you're going to set that your wife or your husband, they're not going to like. Honestly, like the goals that I set, like for forests, my wife Celeste is, okay, honey, I support you. She doesn't see those. So there are going to be some, but I will say if you're doing life with somebody else in a covenant, you have to do this with them. It will be, first of all, I'll say this as well. The reason why this is so powerful when I do this with my wife, because she's so much smarter and more disciplined than I am, that she keeps us on track. And we're going to get to how important that is as the system that we're going to install here in a little bit. So anyways, I thought I would share this with you guys to say, yes, I do this. We do this every year. Some years when we're having more kids, we slack on it a little bit. But the point is, what you're not trying to do is give yourself a guarantee. What you're trying to do is give yourself a 76% chance of being more likely of hitting them. And we all need that if we want to experience abundance, because it's not just about being a little bit more successful or having a little bit better of a life, but by literally, truly being like, I have a freaking overflow and it's amazing. And I just got to find people to give it away to. That's the goal. All right. So I've said this a lot, but I want you guys to all ask yourself, not just when it comes to work, we're not just thinking about work, what do you really want this year? And I have learned that for creative people, we have a really time getting to this one thing. This is the hardest question for me to ever answer. And it's hard every single year. And I have to take time, and I have to get away, and I have to decompress, and I have to get out of work mode, and I have to get away from my kids, even because I have to really almost get inside myself and go, yeah, what do I really want? And every year it changes for me. It might not for you. And I won't get into 5-year goals and 10-year goals. Again, this is not a course. This is not a thing about that. We can talk about that later. But for this next year, I want you guys to really think about this. And so I have a question that I ask that helps me get to this place. It might be a little bit of a scary question, but I want you to answer this. But the next one is the one that I want you to write down. What feels a little bit too selfish to ask for or achieve? This is like a really good place to start. And you know that if it's, I don't know if I can write that. Oh, a new car, a 2026? I don't know. Nobody in my family's ever gotten a new car. We always get used cars, Brandon. Oh, what would my parents say if they saw me pull up in a new car knowing that my dad's just paid cash for old clunkers his whole life? I don't know, but that's an indicator of like maybe where you need to be thinking. Isn't that weird? Just doing that little exercise. This is always weird for me. It feels, I don't know, a house, Brandon, in this economy, it's hard to get a house right now. I don't know if a bank would even give me a mortgage. But what feels a little bit too selfish to ask for or achieve? It feels like you would almost need permission to even write. You want to, it's in there. You can't stop thinking about it. You think about it on the weekends. You think about it during the day. Maybe it's not something as big as that. Maybe it's promoted to creative director. I don't know. Nobody in my family's ever been a director. Isn't it crazy when you start thinking about this? But this is for me, this is the place when I know I'm a little scared to write it. That's how I know like I'm getting somewhere. So this is where I really want you guys to think about asking, what feels a little bit too selfish to ask for or achieve? It's also the thing that ironically, if you went after that, you would have to probably have the biggest level up that you've ever had as a person. But the level up, but who the goal makes you become would be worth it even if you don't hit the goal. Isn't that crazy? Think about that. Let's just use like the new car thing. Oh my gosh, some of you getting a brand new car or leasing a brand new car, like that's terrifying. Who would you have to become to get to that point where it was no big deal to be able to afford? The level up that you would have to be pulled into internally. I don't know what the goal is, but insert any big crazy thing. Who that would transform you into, even if you don't get the car at the end of it, would be so worth it in the process anyway. Wouldn't that be amazing? So what feels a little bit too selfish to ask or achieve? I want you to write that down for yourself. Maybe it's multiple things. Again, there's no rules to this, but write that down. All right. So now we're going to move into a little bit more technically getting to radical clarity, but I'm not looking at y'all's faces. So some of you, just by a show of hands, was that even challenging a little bit and helpful to go through that first part? Just raise your hands. One person. Great. That's all I'm here to do is impact one person. Lauren, I'm so glad you're here. Great. Couple more. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, it's crazy to think about it like that. So we're going to get into the radical clarity part. So finding out where we need to set goals. And for some of you on this call, I've gone through some of this with you before. Let me get my presenter window back here. Okay. All right. So maybe you're going, all right, Brandon, but where do I start? So by now you should be saying, okay, I get it. I've drank the Kool-Aid. I'm tired of drifting. I got it. I need to be thinking a little bit bigger, Brandon. We get it, but where do I start? So there's a really simple system that I use every year before I sit down to write these goals. Because if you're like me, you might not even know. Like sometimes I don't even know. Sometimes there's big things that I want, but like, how do I know that actually a goal that I need to set? So most people who get started with goal setting, but don't stay with it, usually don't. There's multiple reasons, but one of the reasons is we set too many goals. And we literally get overpowered by the overwhelm of those too many goals. And I'm just going to go back to drifting. I'd rather have a body full of ticks from drifting in this beautiful grass field than I would try to keep on track of all these goals because my life is crazy. So whenever I get off track with goal setting, it's usually because I have too many. So we're going to look at how to defeat this before it even happens. Now, this is called the life wheel. Some of you have seen this before. Don't worry, I'm going to send you a download. If you want to get a screenshot, grab a screenshot now. And you may not know this, but your life has 10 domains, okay? So these 10 core sections are what make up your existence. There's your health, which is, in my opinion, the biggest one. Then there's your career, finances, there's your spouse or partner, your family, your friends, your recreation, there's your home environment, there's your community, and there's your spirituality. This is what makes up every human being on the planet. There are 10 things. Some of you are just going, holy crap, I never even knew there were 10 sections of my life. Now I know why I'm so freaked out all the time, or now I know why I'm drifting. I didn't even know that this was a section like that I should be thinking about. Some of you are looking at this wheel going, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, And so the reason why this is a wheel is because the closer you get to a 10 in all these areas, the more abundant your life will be and feel. It's that simple. So when you fill this out, I'm going to show you how to fill this out in a second. The way this works is you're going to give yourself a 1 out of 10 in each category. You're going to rate yourself from 1 being sad and hopeless and drifting to 10, I am like thriving and feeling abundant in every way. Now, goal setting experts say that you should have 1 to 3 goals for each of these things. But again, I'm creative. I don't have the attention span for that. So I literally try to set 1 or 2 every year for each area. Now, sometimes in my family, I may need to set 2 because I want to spend more time with my dad. My mom and dad are getting older, and I want to spend more time with my brother or something like that. So I'll set 2 goals around that or something like that, but try to not overdo it. So what the life wheel does is once you fill this out, the life wheel will help you see where you need to or could improve or go after things that you want. So here's a snapshot of what this starts to look like when you fill it out. So each section should look something like this. Now, this is an example of a person that is obviously struggling with their health. You can see they gave themselves a 3 out of 10 as it relates to health. Now, when you fill the whole thing out, some of these might be at a 9 or a 10. Somebody might be really struggling with their health, but might have a 10 in their finances. You might be a billionaire, but you might be like really overweight and really unhealthy. What that tells you is this person probably doesn't need to set a financial goal this year. They probably have everything in place. They probably already have goals and systems, but they've totally neglected this side of their wheel. So now this tells that person, okay, I need to really focus 2026 or this next year on getting really healthy and defining what that looks like. So when you guys fill this out, you'll see visually where your wheel is wonky. So if you take a wheel off of a car and you make it all lopsided, it's not going to go very well. And the point is to set goals that help you round out your wheel. Again, not lower your standards. Health's at a 3. I'm going to drop my finances down to a 3 too. No, the goal is to work up towards a 10. So eventually, over time, as you look at your life wheel every year, you see it becoming more round. You see it becoming rounder and rounder so that it's able to go smoothly. And this is a coaching tool. Like I've used this in coaching before with people, but it's also a really good diagnostic to go, that's where I should set a goal this year. I don't need to set a goal over there right now. I really need to focus right here. So I want you guys, we're going to take 5 minutes. And obviously, you don't have this printed out right now. If you have a printer nearby, grab a screenshot, print it. But at least write down the categories. And I want you to give yourself a number from 1 out of 10 for each category. Okay. And again, I'll send you guys the download for this after, but you can grab a screenshot too. And I want you to just be honest with yourself. I'm going to go on mute for 5 minutes and drink some water here. Again, you don't have to share this with anybody. And I want you to just give yourself a number in every single category. And then we're going to come back and talk about the next steps. Okay. All right. Sorry, I don't have any cool music to play. Google hasn't figured that out for me yet. And again, you're sorry. 5 minutes. while you guys fill this out, remember the goal here is to just be honest. Just be brutally honest. This is for you, right? You don't have to share this. No one's going to present this. And this is honesty will be the best unlock for making this valuable. All right, I'll give you guys another minute here. Now, this is always an interesting thing to do. I'm always shocked by this every year that I do this. And sometimes it's like, well, dang it, I neglected that section again. And honestly, a lot of the times, with the exception of 2024, it's usually the recreation section, which tells me like, dude, I gotta chill a little bit in life. I have to make better habit goals. We'll talk about the different kinds of goals here in a second. But the funnest thing about this is when you do this and then you do it again a year later and you see an improvement in an area. And if you ever want to talk about having a sense of fulfillment, like getting to the top of a mountain or achievement is great, but like seeing progress in an area of your life, for me, there's no better feeling ever. And I've had a lot of massive wins in my career, but going from a 3 to like a 6 in an area, there's no better thing to want to celebrate or bring other people in to celebrate. It just feels amazing. So I can't reiterate that enough. And I heard somebody say this one time, and I borrowed this, but so the definition of success is progress. It's not like whatever. So like it's continually progressing in an area, and whether that's like you're lonely and you need a community and you go from just like being alone on the weekends. So what if by the end of the year, there's a group of people that you hang out with every weekend and you feel deeply seen and connected? You won't even care if you're not making a lot of money. So having progress in an area is the goal. So I would say take this thing, you guys, borrow this and run a diagnostic on yourself every 6 months. Especially if you're going to be sticking to your goals and doing this, run a diagnostic on yourself every year. This is such an easy, simple tool. And it's an honest tool to just help you go, yeah, okay, that's where I'm at here. I don't want to be at a 6 here. I want to get to a 10. Okay, what does a 10 look like? So we're going to get to that. But I just can't stress that enough, how easy and simple this is. And I did not invent this, by the way. The Life Wheel is a coaching tool that people have been using for hundreds of years. Again, I've just taken this and retrofitted it into the mind and the life of a creative professional. And you can use this you can use this to measure all kinds of other stuff. You can use it for goal setting. You can use this to help coach other people. Like, it's just a really simple, easy, effective tool. But let's talk about goals a little bit now, okay? So I'm assuming everybody's done. If not, keep filling it out. Keep giving yourself a number. I want to switch gears for a second and talk about goal setting, because there's things that goals are and there's things that goals aren't. So this is called the Smarter Goals Framework. And if you're going to set a goal this year, and you're going to set one major goal that moves you forward, it has to check these boxes, okay? It has to be specific, meaning you have to know exactly what you want. Instead of saying, I want to have a party, say, I want to have a superhero themed party with cake, games, and my closest friends, for example. It has to be measurable. You should be able to count or track your progress. Instead of saying, I'll invite people, say, I'm going to invite 10 people to this party. And then it has to be achievable. It has to be something you can actually do. The goal, don't plan to have a pet tiger at your party if it's not realistic. But a bouncy castle that's shaped like a tiger, yeah, do that. But so sometimes we get into this mode like, yeah, I'm going to fly. You're not going to fly by 2026. You can fly on an airplane or maybe a human-sized drone. Sorry, like it's not going to happen. It's got to be achievable. And then the R relevant, it should matter to you or fit with what you really want. If you love superheroes, don't plan a cowboy party, basically. I don't know why I'm using this analogy, but we're just going to go with it, okay? Maybe somebody here is like, how does he know? That's the exact party that I'm trying to plan. And then number T, time bound. You need a deadline to make it happen. Guys, I've been leading creative people for 15 years. People like ask me sometimes, what's the greatest thing you can give a creative person on your team? Give them a deadline. Just give us the worst thing you could ever give me is say, just have something ready in a couple weeks. Just have something for me to look at next month. You're never going to see it, bro. It ain't happening. You got to say, I need this by 4 p.m. on Friday, or you will never it will never be created. So this is great for us because I know everybody resonates with what I'm saying. So instead of saying, I'll plan the party someday, say I will have the party on May 15th and the invites will be sent out by April 15th or something like that. And then E, it's got to be exciting. It should make you pumped. That's where it's like writing down that definition or that thing that's like, I don't know, this is a little scary. This feels a little bit like I might have to ask permission. It should excite you a little bit to know that you're going after something this year that's like a little terrifying. This is how I felt with writing Save the Creatives. It freaked me out. Nobody's giving me permission to write a book. And in fact, when I called my friend who's a literary agent, you know what they told me? You're not an established author, so you're probably not going to get your book published. And I was like, wait, you have to be an established author to become an author? And they're like, yeah. And I just remember feeling like so much fear around that. Oh, but also I've got to do this. This is terrifying for me to do, but I have to do this year. So your goals should feel a little bit exciting. You should feel like, exactly that, like a little bit terrifying, a little bit excited. And then R, reviewed. You have to check, you have to basically measure. It goes into the measuring thing, but if we're using the cake analogy, it's you should check on your plans for the party to make sure that they're working. Like you're reviewing it, you're setting action steps. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Maybe a friend can help you double check everything a week before the party, but you've got to be constantly looking at it and reviewing your goals. So it doesn't work if you write your goals down, put them on a wall, and you never enter that room. It doesn't work if you write your goals down, get all excited on this call, and then stick them in a drawer. You have to look at them on a regular basis. And that is the system part that we're going to talk about in the end. So let me make this a little bit more real with another analogy. And I've shared this with some of you before. I want to get in shape is not a goal. What shape do you want to be? There's that really great joke Mitch Hedberg has where he says, pear-shaped people should not wear pear-colored clothing. This is not a goal. Like you have to be more specific. You could see how this person did not use the smarter goal framework to write this. So what would it look like? I will lose 10 pounds by exercising 4 times a week and tracking my calorie intake, achieving this by June 30th. Boom. See the difference? I'll go back one. See, this is why we don't set goals, because we think a goal is like a New Year's resolution. It's finally the year I'm going to do this. That's not a goal. This is a goal. What's that? What that famous quote? A goal is a dream with a deadline. I vibe with that. You got to put a date on it. You got to get specific about it. So again, remember this framework, okay, as you guys are doing this. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, exciting. I add a little pinch of scared in there, and then reviewed on a regular basis. All right, section 3. We're going to talk about something that I call the domino goal. And for me, this is always really helpful if I feel stuck. So if you feel stuck in your life right now, you probably setting 10 goals is just going to exhaust you. Maybe not. I don't know you as well as you know you. So you're going to have to figure that out. But especially if you feel stuck or like you've been on the verge of a season of transformation and it's just not fully taken fruition yet, and you don't know why, maybe you just keep hitting this wall. Sometimes the domino goal can be the easiest way to actualize all of the potential of what I'm talking about. And that's literally just one massive goal that just knocks everything else down on that life wheel. It may not even be one for each of those things. It may just be like, I'm just going to do this year because if I do this one thing, everything's going to just. So again, for me, the thought of 10 goals is always overwhelming. My wife and I will probably set 10 this year. I don't know. We have so many kids. It's awesome, but it's like school schedules and everything. And I don't know that we will. I think 5 is probably the sweet spot for us, but it's different for everybody. Just don't overcommit. But this is really important because we all have, I believe that everybody has one thing that if you just focused on that one thing this year and aimed your energy at it and committed to it, I think everything else would feel and abundantly grow around you, and you would feel and experience that feeling of abundance, like there's overflow, like what I'm talking about. Now, I can't tell you what that is for you. It's totally what it's going to be for me this year. It's going to be totally different than it's going to be for Lauren, or what it's going to be for Luke, or what it's going to be for any of you. And don't ever copy somebody else's domino goal. That should go without saying. So I want you to look at your life wheel numbers that you filled out, okay? Now, the first thing is it's not a report card. If you're feeling down about yourself, you're in the wrong frame of mind for this. This is not a self-shaming exercise. We're creative. We deal with that enough already, all right? I dealt with all of that already today about some other stuff. This is not what that is. It's not a report card, okay? It doesn't tell you what you're bad at, basically. It shows where pressure is entering your life and leaking into everything else. Now, I also want to say the lowest score is not always the most important. The most important area is the one area that's keeping you drifting or really beneath that value ceiling that I talk about in the book where you just can't break through. And I call this the pressure place because it's the area we feel the most pressure. And again, it's different for everybody. And I want you to look at your wheel numbers that you wrote down, or if you printed this out really fast, one will be really impressed if you have a printer, and a working printer in that close of proximity to you, you should get extra points. I want you to look at your wheel and I want you to try and answer what single area is the one area, the one thing where if I fix this year or I make progress in this year, all this other stuff is going to start to fall into place or even be easier to set goals around. Now, again, it's not going to be the same of all of you. And for some, it's going to be your finances and your spending habits. For some, it's going to be your health. I also need to say this about money because I think it's really important. Because if you look and study the data around creative people, meaning most of you on this call, in fact, everybody on this call is creative. There's a lot of creative people are feeling a lot of uncertainty around money right now. But money is not always the domino goal. For example, if you just think about getting more money this year, but not about what it will cost you to get that money, like all these other areas, you might be setting yourself up for a lot of stress. Okay. I want to tell you guys, this is a true story. I want to make this really vivid for you guys because if you're just thinking about the money, you might be totally thinking about this wrong. I have an actual friend who makes over 300K a year. And if you saw his house or looked at his paycheck, you'd be like, dude, this guy's totally got abundance locked in. But behind the curtain, every day, this guy goes to work for a boss who literally they get yelled at. He has to show up at 7 a.m. and they start their day with a yelling meeting where everybody just gets yelled at because they're old school dudes. And it's like super demeaning for like the first hour. On top of that, he's micromanaged like a little kid. And his job is so stressful that at 34 years old, he's on beta blockers and heart medication. They've also succumbed to something called lifestyle inflation. How many of you know what lifestyle inflation is? If you don't, you need to learn this phrase and you need to avoid it for the rest of your life. Their lifestyle has risen to the level of your income. So poor people, when they make more money, they spend it. Wealthy people, when they make more money, they have their lifestyle set. And their lifestyle does not drastically increase every time they make more money. That money goes towards saving, investing, or that money is deployed. But a sign of a person with a poverty mindset isn't always that they don't have a lot of money, but are they spending all the money that they have? So this friend of mine, this is a real person. They literally have succumbed to lifestyle inflation to the place where they have a $5,000 a month mortgage, which is crazy. They have 4 kids. They have to budget every penny that they make. They're just squeezed in every single way. On top of all of that, because of his job is the way that it is, he can't show up to the dance recitals and the sporting events that happen during the day that the other parents can show up to. And I think for this person, the hardest part is if he leaves this job, he has to start over somewhere else making more money. So he's trapped in this position. We call this the golden handcuffs. It's a lot of money. And now their lifestyle matches the income that they're making. So he's trapped, but he's making more than 99% of the entire world. So I have to ask, in y'all's opinion, and answer this rhetorically, does this person really have abundance? This person has the more money thing figured out. And I tell this story because all of us know somebody like this. So I say this because if you're just thinking about the money, but you're not thinking about what it might cost you, you may set a domino goal that costs you your family, that costs you your health, and that's not always worth it. Now, money, you might be in a place where that might be the domino goal, and that's okay. I'm not going to answer that for you. I just want you guys to really look inside of yourself internally and honestly really answer if that's the thing that it needs to be. So I always include this story here because it's really important because, yeah, an extra $100,000, who wouldn't love that this year? But at what cost, though, too? So I think that's really important for us all to talk about. All right. Now, you got your numbers, you got your life wheel numbers, if you printed it out, whatever, if you wrote it. Which area is not the lowest, but which area is creating the most pressure for you? I want you to circle it or write that down or type it out. If it's career, write career. If it's your spouse, partner, write it. If it's friends, probably need to get rid of those friends. No, I'm just kidding. Write it down. This is really important. The area that I'm feeling the most pressure. Give yourself a minute. Now, for my friend that I talked about, it's pretty clear. The area that's causing the most pressure isn't his money, it's his career, the job environment, his boss, all of it. Even though the money he's making is great, it's squeezing every other area of his life to the point where his doctors, you got to watch your heart, bro. So he's missing out on what matters. All of his health is suffering. It's bleeding into every other area. So that's what you're looking for. What area that's creating the most pressure for you is bleeding into these other areas. So for this person, if he could just set a goal this year to maybe find a job that's healthier for him and his family, even if it's a little bit lower pay, everything else would happen. Maybe he could get off the beta blockers and the heart medication. Maybe he could actually show up to the dance recitals. Can you imagine? Like, for those of us that have kids, I would rather you cut my arm off than miss my daughter's dance recital. I'm not even exaggerating. I would rather you sever it right here at the elbow than tell me I can't show up to my daughter's little thing where she's going to twirl around for 10 minutes and not even do it on cue. So what is my pressure place forcing me to do? I want you to ask this, that I would not choose otherwise. Look at that area that's creating the most pressure for you. Now ask yourself, what is it really forcing out of you? That answer is going to reveal where your big constraint is, and we're going to try to go after that constraint. So the pressure reveals the constraint, and the constraint is what's creating all the limitation. Now I want you to name the constraint. And if you need more time to think about this, write all of this down, screenshot these, and go this evening or this weekend and think about it or whatever. But I want you to name the constraint. The biggest constraint in my creative life is, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a category or like a number, but it may be something like unpredictable income. I remember at a point in my life being a freelancer, look, like, I'm just going to say it. If you're good at being a freelancer, you're just good at getting hired over and over again. It's exhausting. The unpredictable income can just be so draining. Sometimes you're at a point where that's causing the most pressure and you need to go look for a W-2 gig. That's awesome. I don't know why we glamorize like the small creative business owner that's a freelancer. It's every month you have to go get hired again. Who wants that? Now, the pressure is totally subjective. It's relative for everybody. I'm just using that as an example. Maybe it's, I have no protected time in my life to be around my family and my marriage is suffering right now. You have to figure out where this constraint is showing up. And now here's the kicker. Your domino goal should remove the constraint. This is where we start chopping down this tree of a domino. Your domino goal now becomes the one thing you set a massive goal for this year that you commit to achieving. It's not about fixing everything. It's about removing that one constraint that keeps the most pressure on everything else. And here's the kicker for this. If this goal were already true, your life would feel more stable, more spacious, more intentional, and more abundant. That's how you know. If you can imagine, okay, this one thing would, if it were already true, my life would feel more abundant. That's a good indicator of if it's a good domino goal to go after. Here's another one that you can screenshot and write this down. It's like a prompt. The area creating the most pressures, this is an example of someone whose their pressure place was their health, right? And so it shows you the constraint, right? So I'll just read this. Creating the most pressure for me is my health. This pressure forces me to create, work, and make decisions at 50% capacity. The biggest constraint this creates is I always feel physically and emotionally behind. A domino goal that would reduce this constraint is, you can see here, lose 25 pounds, change my entire diet by March 1st, 2026, and then keep the weight off the entire year. I made this up. But this is an example of if someone is really feeling this. Imagine every day waking up, you have 50% of the energy, your brain is foggy all the time. Like, that none of the other stuff even matters because you can't even do your job really well if you're unhealthy. So this is a sign for this person that their domino goal needs to be getting their health right so that they can then focus on all the other stuff. All right, guys, we're almost at time here. If you can hang on, we're almost to the end. Think about it like this. These are some other examples. Screenshot this. I'll go through this fast. This is if the pressure zone is finances, it might look like this. In the middle, if your pressure zone is career, it might look like this. Or if your pressure zone is health environment, it might look like this. But I did this so you guys could see how someone else might fill this out if these are the things that they're struggling with. All right, so what's the system that we need to put in place? It's really not rocket science. This is the part, you guys. This is the part that you got to go after. There's a 3-part system that abundant creatives use to hit their goals. It's not super complex. It doesn't require any technology. It doesn't require you to spend any money. This is totally 100% free. All it requires for you to do is commit to it. And I promise you, if you commit to it, you will see some crazy stuff happen in your life. And it looks like this. Number one, you got to write down your domino goal. Now, you can you can come up with 10 goals and write them down. But if the domino goal thing resonates for you, you need to get really clear on what your pressure place is and the constraint that it's putting on your life. And you need to come up with a domino goal and you need to write it down. Put it somewhere where you can see it. Next, you got to repeat. You got to write it, and then you got to repeat. You got to build habits that support the goal. There's two kinds of goals. There's an achievement goal and there's a habit goal. Every achievement goal probably needs habit goals behind it. Okay. If you say I'm going to lose 25 pounds by the end of the year, you've got to put in the weekly work to do that. So you need to have habit goals and you need to track them weekly. Now you can go on Google and download habit tracker worksheets totally for free. There's goal setting journals you can get that literally help you do this every single day. But you got to build habits that support the goal. Number three, this is the hardest part about this whole process, but I promise you guys, if you do this, it is so freaking worth it. You have to partner with someone to hold you accountable to the goals and habits. If you can, this is where coaching can be really powerful. You can pay a coach to hold you accountable to your goals. Let's just say your goal is worth $50,000. Let's say you have a goal to add $50,000 in side work that you do on nights and weekends to your income this year. Would it be a good investment to pay a coach $1,000 a month to help you get there by the end of the year? Yeah, that's a really good return. So this is where, when you're really clear on the outcome of your goals, having somebody hold you accountable to them literally becomes immeasurable. This is where mastermind groups where you hold each other accountable to goal setting becomes so freaking powerful for unlocking this stuff. Because I tell you this right now, if you write your crap down and you don't follow it and you don't look at it and you don't hold yourself accountable and you already struggle with discipline, it's not going to matter. But if there are people in your life that you trust and say, I need you to check in with me every week on this, or let's set these goals together. I promise you. Hey, did you do your action steps this week? Did you reach out to those clients? Did you have this meeting with your employer where you were going to ask for your raise or do your thing? I didn't do it. No, I need you to go do it right now. Come on. You said you would do it by Friday. I've been in groups where we unlock this kind of achievement with each other, and it's really powerful. And you have to have someone else. You have to have someone else. And then finally, celebrate. When you hit a habit, when you hit a goal, you have to build celebration into what you're doing. Seriously, go to dinner, get a bottle of champagne. I don't even care what it is. Go on Amazon and buy yourself a toaster. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but this is the area of all this that I actually struggle with the most. And this is where my business partner and I are starting to hold each other more accountable. It's to just celebrate when you hit a goal. Tell somebody, do a little dance, because here's what happens. When you celebrate, a dopamine thing happens in your brain. You ever see that episode of The Office where every time Dwight does something, Jim gives him a little piece of candy or a treat, and he trains? Oh, no, every time the machine boots up, he gives Dwight a piece of candy so that one day when it boots up the machine, Dwight just goes like this and reaches out, because you're training your brain off of a reward. You're training your brain. This is where you use dopamine as a tool to build a system for achievement. Imagine if you built this system in your life where it felt good every time you did the right thing. You would stop doing the wrong thing and you would do the right time. You would do the right thing more often. Imagine if every time you ate a salad instead of a cheeseburger, you just rewarded yourself. What would you do? You would eat more salads. It would naturally, chemically, scientifically change. So this is a science. This is not a fluffy pat yourself on the back. You have to celebrate. Okay. So here are the 4 things, okay? You got to write, you got to repeat, you got to partner with somebody, and you got to celebrate. I will send this to you guys in a deck. Let me see. Yeah, so this is literally the last slide that I have. We're 4 minutes over. And here's what I'm going to do for those of you that are still on here. I'm going to send this to you guys in some kind of a workbook format where you guys can get all of it. But if there's one thing that you guys take into the new year, I think it's just the realization, the reality that nobody's going to come and do this for you. And that can be really terrifying, or it can be really liberating, because I promise you, if you write this stuff down, if you find somebody to hold you accountable to it, and you build some action steps and some habits in here, and then you celebrate, there's really nothing that's going to hold you back aside from some kind of major catastrophe coming. But if you're afraid of that and you're like, your brain is stuck in that place, you probably need some deeper help anyway. That's like beyond goal setting. So this is the system that again, this is my system. This is the easy version of this. Again, like I said, if you really want to get rigorous with goal setting, let me know. I'll send you some recommendations for books and even some courses. But this is the one place where you guys can literally start for free. And if you can get your domino goal written down by, what is today, December 22nd? If you can do this by Christmas, and then even if you're married or you have a spouse, sit down and do some of this with them. I promise you, what your brain's going to do is it's going to do that thing where it starts focusing, and things are going to happen, and you're going to get opportunities, and your brain's going to start to consciously and subconsciously start avoiding things that move you away from that goal. And it's going to be really powerful, but you're going to have to level up as a person to get there. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I know some of you are still on and we're 5 minutes over. Does anybody have any burning questions? Was anybody massively let down by this hour they spent?
No, hi, Brandon.
What's up, dude?
Hey, no, I think overall it was very useful. And as you said, sometimes as a creative person, you think like money is the only way that's going to make you be able to mean success for you, right? So I think there's a lot of factors, right? There's the people factor, and I know that you have a lot of different factors that play into that. But I think this gives you like an overall view of your whole life really and the aspects that component. So I think it's very useful, not only from a creative perspective, I think from every angle. So thank you for sharing.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. I thought about one more story that maybe I would share with you guys. In 2017, before Forest existed, I had 3 freelance clients, and that was my world. Was just like I was just servicing those clients, and I was mainly working from home. There was no office, there was no Forest, so like I didn't have anywhere that I had to be every day. It was really nice, but we also had 2 kids. We were thinking about maybe another one, and my wife and I set a goal. Like we wanted to have. It was really big for us at the time. We wanted to have $20,000 in our savings account, more money than I think I'd ever seen. In fact, when we set the goal, I laughed a little bit. But what it did was, because we saw that, we made a really crazy decision, and I got rid of my truck. So we had 2 vehicles, and I had a brand new 2017 Tacoma, all black, like the off-road edition. My brother worked for Toyota at the time, so he helped me lease it. It was awesome. And I looked outside one day, and it was just like sitting there, and because I wasn't going anywhere, and I was like, man. And I remember looking at the goal and going, man, how much easier would it be for us to achieve this goal if I got rid of this truck? So I did it. I got rid of the truck, and literally it paved the way for us to get to that goal by the end of the year. And I'll tell you what, like I felt so rich. We were like, we didn't even know what to do with the money. Like we literally had that amount of money in our savings account. And I just remember laughing, like feeling so rich, like we're balling, let's go. But what the goal does is it just helps your brain go, okay, like it helps you make decisions. It helps you make the right decisions to move towards what you want. And so that's the most important thing, you guys, that you just determine what you want. And if you're married or you have a spouse or whatever, do it with them so that you're on the same page, and let that person become gasoline on the fire for you to do it. And maybe you're dating someone you should break up with, and that's got to be your goal. I can't tell you that. Look at your wheel, and the wheel will tell you, is this relationship causing pressure and everything. So anyways, this is not a relationship goal setting course. But anyways, guys, I'm really thankful for y'all showing up. I really hope that this helps you guys. If it doesn't, just discard it. But I just want everybody to thrive. I am a creative person, and if I can thrive, then it's like I've got to figure out a way to help everybody else figure this out too. And I know that a lot of you already are. Landon, I see your workout videos on Instagram. He's in there at 5 a.m., guys. He's crushing it. So I know that a lot of you are already crushing it in a lot of ways. Thank you guys for being on here. I'll try to send some of this out so that you guys can have some of the materials. And I hope, if I don't see you guys before Christmas, I hope you guys have an awesome and a Merry Christmas.